Hey, this is Pamela Riemenschneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. Greg, we got Olympics going on. I mean, I've been watching a lot of handball. Handball is my winter curling, my summer curling, I guess.
Handball is
Um,
pretty cool. It makes you wonder why we don't play that in this country.
why a bunch of former college basketball or football players don't get together and play that sport, because you would think that we could probably be pretty good at it.
Yeah, I agree. Now you do have to call it team handball, so
Oh,
people don't get confused and think it's like the racquetball version with hands.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's the
or
soccer version where you don't use your feet, you use your hands. That seems like
it's,
a perfectly American thing is to take soccer and no, we're not going to use our feet though. We're going to use our hands.
I think Uli called, no, wait, Uli called field hockey weird soccer.
Well, they use sticks. Come on.
It is weird though.
It is weird.
So,
But America does play that and has a team. And in fact, my daughters play it. So.
so there we go. But in the produce world, we had a couple of things this week just to talk about, Casey's. If you don't know what Casey's, if you're not from the Midwest, you don't know the joy of it being Friday night and you live in a very rural community, extreme rural like I did, and your only pizza option being Casey's. But they are becoming a dominant player in the C-store space and just acquired a chain that is going to take them into Bucky's turf.
Oh yeah, a
And
lot of Texas stores.
yeah, I mean, I mean, there's only 51 Bucky's, and Bucky's are a truck stop phenomenon. They're not really necessarily there for, um, your quick stop kind of thing. But Casey's is buying CEFCO. What was that? Was that the name of it? I can't remember. I don't have it right up in front of me. I'm
They're
trying to get
called
it in front of me.
CEFCO convenience stores. I'm not familiar with them. They're in looks like Texas, Oklahoma, Panhandle, Florida, kind of Gulf Coast. Um, it's almost 200 stores, and it does expand. They're huge in the Midwest, and it does expand south for them. And Casey's does carry fresh produce, unlike just a plain old gas station. They're kind of like in the Midwest, Quick Trip, which also prides itself on pretty decent food for a gas station.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is that Casey's is it's kind of like the gas station Dollar General almost. If you just think of rural Missouri, rural Kansas, Iowa, and now into Oklahoma and Texas. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on, to see how they're growing. But if you look up stats, and if you're in any of these, like you go to a conference and they talk about C stores, they're going to talk about Quick Trip, the other Quick Trip up in the northern Midwest, and their banana dominance. And Casey's is actually a surprising pizza dominance in the country. Pizza, their the amount of pizza that they sell. So they're definitely a food handler. So hopefully we can see more fresh produce access as they expand into a lot of rural communities, especially down into Texas.
Well, we don't have an update on Kroger Albertsons merger talks. That was last week's, and there hasn't been any further progress. But they did make news with a private label.
Yeah, this for me was a little bit out of left field when the news release popped up for me. I was like, now what? Now they have a new private label brand that for now is for berries. It's called Field and Vine. And when I think about retailers and private label berries, I think of my backyard, Homer HEB, and they don't really have a label on them except for the organics. They will label them as HEB. But they have a generic there. But this is actually something that is private label with an attribute, which I think is the differentiator. We're not just putting it in our label to put it in our label. They are highlighting that they are American grown, which I thought was a little bit out of left field. It wasn't something that I expected Kroger to do, but then I started thinking about some of the things that Kroger is trying to do in the produce space, doing some innovation. They had their, you know, peach truck knockoff, private label peach truck. But perhaps their marketing on that was not exactly what they had planned to do, but they're trying to do some innovative programs, and to do a USA grown is definitely going to resonate with certain shoppers.
Yeah, and it covers, they list all the top blueberry and oh berry, but a lot of them are blueberry growing states. Um, if they go this route, it will be limiting because for 3 to 4 months, if they're going to go US grown berries, they're not going to have any under that label.
Right. Well, but that creating scarcity? Is that creating some kind of fanfare and something to celebrate in the stores? It could all work together into some marketing and exclusivity, even though every other retailer out there has US grown berries, when US grown berries are prevalent and bountiful. But to highlight it and to kind of try to go out there and stake a claim on it, I think is really interesting. It's something that I don't see a lot of retailers really highlighting that, and maybe that is something that we will see more of in the future.
Well, they do. They're definitely highlighting local in this release, and so it makes me wonder if they're going to do a good job of promoting the actual local farms, because consumers consistently say they really like local produce. And if they're really going to get berries from California, Oregon, Washington, Georgia, Michigan, New Jersey, they should be showing who those farmers are in those regions, because that's the way consumers connect.
And the one thing too that I noticed, and I love to read more into a press release than they are coming out and saying or showing in the photo. And the caption of the photo and the original headline of the press release, oftentimes they get changed for space and clarity or whatever. And sometimes we take out the super exciting words that
By
people
change, you mean we change them.
we change them.
Yeah, yeah, you and
Yes.
I change them, yes.
But I noticed in the caption for the photo that auto populates, it says it is a fresh produce line. So is it just going to be berries, or are we going to see other stuff in this Field and Vine brand? That would be interesting to see, and something definitely to watch.
It has to be other stuff because Field and Vine, that incorporates so many more
There's
things than just berries.
everything grows in a field, but not everything grows on a vine.
Well, one or the
Except
other. It's
strawberries
both.
grow on a vine, kind of. Kind of. Strawberries grow on those little shoots that go out of the, yeah. Anyway, what else we got this week?
We have to talk more food service because when we talked last week, it was basically at the start of the food service conference. And now that I've returned to Midwest summer from my Monterey high 50-degree nights, there were it was a little bit different than some previous years because you really could tell that there were a lot of school food service people there. They even had like a separate kind of small conference for suppliers, like maybe 20 like little tabletop booths, just for some suppliers who wanted to get to meet the school food service people better. I mean, you could tell they were there. Uh, IFPA said there were almost 1,000 buyers there. I mean, the first half of the show was unnavigable through the aisles, so I would think exhibitors were pretty happy. One of the stories that I wrote about was Technomic's study about where food service is, and a lot of what I think we've seen anecdotally are proven in the study. And one of the things it showed was if you take 2019 as a baseline of like 100, right now we're at a 90 in 2024. So we're 10 points below where we were before that. And they do not project us to get back up to 100 until 2028. So that's like a 10-year setback for the food service industry. I think maybe we lose sight of how devastating the pandemic and then inflation during the recovery has been for food service. And when they segmented it out, bars and restaurants actually were the strongest segment, followed by retail food service. so food service and grocery stores. And the segment, not surprisingly, that is slowest to recover is travel and leisure. And I was, as he presented that, I was thinking, yeah, but aren't I hearing stories about how this summer is like the hottest travel summer of all time? And that may be true, but what's holding the food service economy back is business travel. Business travel is nowhere near where it was before the pandemic, and it may never recover because there are people who worked in offices who do not work in offices now, and it is pointless to travel to them. But he did say event business is has surpassed pre-pandemic, and that is an area that fresh produce does well in. Because if you think about all the events we go to, that's a good place to put on buffets, fresh fruits and vegetables, cooked versions of fruits and vegetables. You really do see a lot of produce in those places, probably more than when you go to restaurants and you had to purposely add it to your order. It's just
Right.
there.
How many times have you
So
gone to a
that's
conference and there's a charcuterie kind of crudité,
yes.
and it's not just to pander to the produce people in the room, that it seems like an obvious choice for people to be able to choose. So yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah. And then just another one was beverages are on the increase, including non-alcoholic beverages. And those are places that fruit really shine in. And anecdotally, we are definitely seeing a rise in that. The Gen Z generation, who does have some disposable income, is just not as big a drinkers as some other generations.
You know what though? I have noticed this too. When I was at CPMA, the opening reception at CPMA had some really fabulous produce-centric mocktails, and I stuck to those the whole night, and I felt great the next day. So maybe they're onto something there. They maybe switch out
Imagine
to
that.
some delicious mocktails instead of continuing to drink the buffet wine. Hey, you know what? The kids are all right on some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, just because they may be smarter than their parents doesn't mean they're having more fun.
We had another study this week that kind of ties into that technomic, was Restaurants 365. And it tied into another news release that we ran that was talking about Taco Bell doing AI ordering. So they're showing that, this was a survey of 3,700 QSR, fast casual, and I mean the whole restaurant industry, talking about their challenges and how they're overcoming them. And technology is a big part of the picture. And that looks different in a lot of the different segments. But yeah, just the AI ordering. Have you encountered AI ordering when you are at a restaurant yet?
I don't believe I have, but we don't do the fast food, and no offense to Taco Bell, but that's been off the menu for a while.
Hey, now listen, they brought the Mexican pizza back. So they got me back in there, maybe once or twice a year. And they're usually one of the only ones that are open after a football game, like late at night when your kid is starving because he's just played a game and you need to go and you don't have any food ready at home because of poor planning. Taco Bell sometimes comes in clutch. But I cannot imagine trying to order from a drive-through with an AI ordering thing. I do enjoy when I go to that shows me the full thing that I've ordered now. But I have encountered at McDonald's on a road trip, because McDonald's breakfast on a road trip, it makes sense. The Egg McMuffin, that's my jam. Um, but I've encountered the AI ordering, and it worked out just great. I mean, I was not dissatisfied with my purchase. But I could see how it could go awry on a lot of things. But so far
Well,
so good.
the question is not have I used it? The question is have I noticed using it?
Mm.
Because I certainly may have used it and it would be a good integration and I wouldn't have noticed. It could have I could have been using it in all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Who knows? You never know when you get into a chat if it's an actual person or if it's a bot. And if it's a good one, it seems like a person.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it
maybe
does.
I have. I don't know.
I know people who are convinced that some of those chats that you use on a website are actual people. And I'm like, I don't think it's an actual person until they've figured out that you have like a question they can't answer. Because I can remember trying to use my bank one once, and I got one step into a question that Erica couldn't answer. And they're like, can you please call this number? And I was like, but I do remember an airline once, it was a real person and they changed my flight with no problem. And I got to my destination, which, hey, when it works, it works. When it doesn't, it's catastrophic.
There you go.
What else we got? I forgot.
We can wrap it up.
All right. Well, I hope you have a good weekend of all the sports that you can handle. I mean, the Summer Olympics comes at a clutch time of year because we're just sitting around waiting for all the good stuff to start. MLS is happening, but
We're waiting for football, but in order to get football, you got to give up summer. So I'm not ready to do that.
Right. All right, that's it for the Produce Reporter Weekend Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.